do something to help. And we mentioned that to the listeners in Melbourne. And I hope you'll be pleased to know that the Melbourne listeners, the 3AW listeners, have specifically donated some money to you. I know it's only money, but you know the spirit in which it's given.
Oh, that's amazing.
A lot of people came in and said, and there was one of them that I saw, here's $50 for the 3AW appeal, and here's 20 for Murray.
That's fantastic.
And a check at this stage, and I have earlier asked people not to continue with the Murray appeal. You'll understand that.
I really appreciate that. That's unbelievable. But
a check for $2,350 will be coming your way.
Good grief! Thank you very much. Thank you.
Don't thank me.
I'm talking to your listeners. That is great. But there are people. We have each other, and there are other people who've lost more than property in your own state. And please, any more to your own people. But thank you very much on behalf of my wife and my two children and myself.
And thank you for bringing it all home, as you did so brilliantly yesterday.
Well, I won't say it was a pleasure, but I'm really glad that I'm able to tell people exactly all, and it's worthwhile. It's wonderful to see Malcolm Fraser in our street today too. Over the run. So I'm glad I wasn't there to talk to him, take his election campaign to somebody else's wreckage. Yeah, oh well.
God bless you, Nickers, and we'll see you in the whip around.
Thank you. No, you won't, Mark. I'm leaving the supermarket.
We don't have a whip around today. I'm talking of the future.
Oh, yeah, indeed you will.
Murray Nicol, thank you.
Thank you, Mark Day. I've never heard him called Nickers. I suppose a show of affection.
Yes, just around the office.
But the day before that interview, he actually saw, as was explained, his house in the Adelaide Hills burning to the ground, and he gave an actuality report for 3AW of that event.
Taylor, I think, was around at that stage, Bruce.
Ray Taylor, a lovely man, and he did 6 till 8:30 at night. Helen Jackson did Matchmakers. Remember that on a Saturday at 9 o'clock? By now, Uncle Roy and Blackers were on breakfast with Hinch in the morning and Mark Day hosting the afternoon show. Muriel Cooper hosted the afternoons with Michael's in for Muriel Cooper, who's off to have a baby in September of 1984, and Dennis O'Kane is head programmer.
That's right. Yes, that's the same Dennis O'Kane who's now in our newsroom, was programming the station at that stage.
Yes. Now, it's 1985. It's the 3AW breakfast with Blackers and Uncle Roy. And DeMarty's, what's that?
Now, I think DeMarty's was the name of the family at the house that you did an outside broadcast from.
I think you're right.
From memory, if memory serves, you ran a competition. Would you like Blackers and Uncle to broadcast from your house?
Yes.
And the DeMarty's family were the ones who won that competition.
And I remember going up there at the crack of dawn. We both arrived at 5 o'clock. And the whole street was there.
Yes.
The house was lit up like a bonfire, and a beautiful breakfast was made, and it was underway. And we broadcast actually from the kitchen.
Yeah, amazing.
This is interesting. This is 1986, and the memories with the birthday theme behind us. Brian White leaves 3AW, and Mike Peterson replaces him as general manager.
Yes.
Hence, then the Thinking Man's Radio takes effect in a little while.
Yes.
1986, the Could Have Been Champions were hosting Friday night from 11 p.m. until 6 a.m. Saturday.
They did overnight weekends,
Goodness me.
Yeah.
Brian White quits in February 86 and goes to 3AK 2UE for the CBC network and the failed attempt to do national radio.
Yes, didn't even last a year, the whole thing.
In March of 86, Bob, what's his name, Bob Maguire?
Father Bob Maguire.
The Sunday night show was axed. John Blackman quits in 1986, and Evan Green and Yolanta Novak fill in at short notice. Interesting. Mark Day resigns from 3AW in May 1986, and Murray Nicol is named to replace him. May 28, Darren James makes his debut as host on Breakfast with Uncle Roy. Ray Taylor resigns after doing 6 till 8:30 for 2.5 years.
So there was about a month there after John left before Darren officially became your co-host.
That's true. We were trying Gavin Wood, for example. We did a couple of weeks with Gavin Wood.
Yep.
And various other people came with the same sort of story. And of course, it was the best move they could have made to bring in Darren into Breakfast.
Yes, it worked well.
Yeah.
Now, we're in the late 1980s of 3AW. I don't think we're going to get it finished tonight, so we have to whip pretty quickly.
I think we
Bruce.
should too. Let's leave tonight's memories, Simon, with probably one of the biggest personalities of modern times, Darren Hinch. Now, whether you like him or loathe him, he's certainly been a great force to be reckoned with
Yes.
in this city in terms of his opinions, his risks, breaking bans and electoral bans, etc.,
Yes.
going in for the plight of the underdog, the victim,
The two
the child.
Yes, the two slogans that sort of go with there and I think are well suited. The human head.
Darren Hinch in action from 1987.
Good morning. Going back through our library of tapes, inadequate as it may be, I've actually said it to a lot of people. Bob Hawke, Mr. Prime Minister, good morning. Morning, Darren. Bob Hope, good morning. Kevin Peacock, good morning.
Good morning, Darren. I just rang to sincerely congratulate you. I'm not going to send you a telegram this time. I thought I'd like to do it publicly on Melbourne's past rating morning program.
Well, thank you very much, Bert. Mr. Murdoch, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Hinch.
Nice to talk to you again.
Likewise.
Jack Lemon, good morning.
Darren, how are you?
Have the Prime Minister in the studio. Mr. Fraser, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Mr. Spike Milligan, good morning. That's who I am. I was wondering who I am. I had a hard night last night. Premier Hamer, good morning. Kennedy, good evening.
Good evening.
Nice to have you on the program. Mr. Whitlam, good morning.
Good morning, Darren.
Bob Geldof, good morning.
Hi, how are you?
Claudia Colbert, good morning.
Good morning.
Harrison Ford, thanks for coming in.
Pleasure to be here.
And Miss Lauren McCall, welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
And thank you. So on this final program, in recent days, I have been wondering, I must admit, how I do this for the last time. How to start now, that I guess I've failed.
There you go. A bit of Darren Hinch on his last program on 3AW before he left to join Channel 7.
He's left and come back and left and come back.
Well,
He will too.
now I have to say, Bruce, I'm going to get Ken to dig out a jingle from 1989, which is roughly where we find ourselves now. That thinking person's radio has come and gone. The
Yeah.
disastrous 12 months they had at
It was
3AW
too,
then.
yes.
And by this time, we had Neil changed our slogan for favourite 3AW jingle of all time.
Talking to someone who feels a lot like you. Every time you turn on your radio, city on the bed, every street cafe. Talking now, but we're talking to you. Talking. Ooh, and listening to. Talking now, but 3AW. We're talking now, but.
Well, there we are. There's a beaut jingle too. Beautifully orchestrated, lovely arrangement.
Hunt came back to the station. He'd been here as a round the groundsman. He'd nicked off to 3DB, and then he came back to call football for 3AW, which he did for 20-odd years.
It's Sports Trivia with Fred McVilliers, Richie Benno, Peter Bakos, and special guest Rex Hunt. Thank you. Let's move it along now because it's our
Good morning, Darren.
G'day, Rex.
World of Sports Sunday morning is ripping into them. It is a great show.
Yes, well, it's pretty lively, and it's something that's close to my heart, so I'm really enjoying it.
But Rex, the big year hasn't started for you, has it really?
Oh, well, we're looking forward to the first weekend after Easter, which is our big thing, that the 3AW football panel has no less than 15 premierships to their name.
You're joking.
And at the moment, we're even negotiating with Statistic Man, who has played in a league premiership side, so that is a premiership team.
Oh, give us a clue, a better clue.
I like to think that I can bring those particular tactics to the people at home, and that's what we're doing, is we're going to incorporate a very interesting and very warm sort of a broadcast.
On one hand, you've got a fish, the other a football. What's between them?
A head with no hair, outdoor beach.
Yeah. What's your foot?
My first love is fishing in the summer and football in the winter.
Peter Bakos, I see you want to ask a question.
Yeah, g'day, Peter Bay. Rex, you're going to cover much racing on. That's good. That's what I wanted to hear.
Great question too.
What I like about you, Rex, is you're going to rip this.
Not going to be a yes man either.
Fred, you seem a bit intimidated. I don't think that you're in the same league.
I'd not like to intrude too much, Roy, but I think I'll just bounce my round ball up my backside a bit.
Who was playing Fred Villiers, I'd love to know. Who was that?
It might have been Rex
It
himself.
sounded like the real Fred Villiers. Well, there was a little of Darren Aykroyd from the 1980s. But before we go, each Sunday I'm telling you, let's make a date for next Sunday night. I'm here to stay. 'Twill be my delight to sing again, bring again the things you want me to. I love to spend
On the Hi-Fi service, you are looking there to a replay of 3AW's celebrations for their 80th anniversary. And that was recorded on or about Sunday night, the 22nd of February, 2012. I hope you didn't get too confused. Remember the station that we used to listen to in Melbourne. I don't know whether you had a chance to listen to 3AW, but now you'll have a better idea of what the station was about and the kind of things that it did. Of course, a lot of those personalities have passed on now, including Bruce Mansfield, who we're listening to there in that segment. Bruce died about a year or so ago now. No doubt we will hear a lot more about 3AW in time to come, as we've got quite an extensive library of archival material, lots of air programs and details to present for you. But I think for the moment we'll leave 3AW there and look at some other topics of interest.
AARON King, Aaron King, for the Golden Estates we've heard of. Yes, Aaron King. Aaron King has got the land for that dream house you...
Hi there, this is your friend Noel Walker here saying you're on the Power Pack program, the Hi-Fi home service.
Well, we're outside the studio. I'm in the library, as a matter of fact, some information I've got here on our next feature. And so I'll do it here and see how. 2UW. Yes, that's a commercial radio station in Sydney. It was originally licensed as a B-class station in 1928. Shortly after, the music publishers W.H. Paling bought into the station. They then formed a new company, Radio Broadcasting Limited. 2UW studios were then moved from Elizabeth Street, Sydney, to the publishing house building, which is in Ash Street, Sydney. It was at the... In 1932, an up-and-coming actor and producer by the name of George Edwards was working at 2UW. He was working there with the theatre company and producing and taking part in radio dramas. Also in the team was Nell Sterling, a popular actress who, GB Sydney, hired George and Nell to come over to 2GB to operate their drama department. George also brought with him from 2UW leading writer Maurice Francis, who over the years wrote many hundreds, perhaps thousands, of radio serials and plays for George. Mr. Bennett went to America for a while to investigate what was she ended up ordered plays and serials exclusively for radio. Mr. was very happy with the purchases he made on behalf of his station. Miss Gibb leave to go to Australia and develop the market there for radio drama. Whilst in Australia, she found a man who became her husband. Subsequently, she decided to live in Australia and establish her own radio transcription business in conjunction with 2, and they worked together for a number of years. Oh, and by the way, George and Nell were not there for years. Everything went along very well for them. George played in many serials and plays, acted or produced them. In fact, he was known to be one of the most prolific producer of radio drama in Australia at the time. And then in 1936, he advised for a big future in production and acting.
Be in the fun. Get your Banger Ball now from your Amoco service station. Remember, Banger Ball is exclusive to Amoco.
This one out. It's a beauty. Did you know that you're lucky listeners? Why? Do you know why we're lucky? Well, I'll tell you why. Because we've got lucky listeners. Now, you wouldn't have found that out unless you were listening. So you were lucky you were listening, weren't you?
Hi everyone, here we are back in the studio now, ready to continue with the second half of our program. During the past 10 minutes or so, I've been speaking about the production of radio drama, plays and serials at Cell Sterling and in fact the Hollywood play, a great reputation they had built up developing the 2GB drama department during 1930, so 2CH. By 1936, Radio 2CH was the least which rivaled both 2GB and 2UW. When 2GB learnt that George Edwards was serious about moving to 2UW and taking with him his players and writers, they took out court orders to prevent him from taking sensitive information about 2GB to 2UW. While the legal battles went on, George and his team continued producing plays and serials until their contract had run out. Producing Casanova and It's Never Too Late to Mind. And the big Sunday special was the Aspro Play to use their studio facilities in the Sydney suburb of Homebush. Columbia had excellent facilities, including a record production plant, which would be of great. They actually went to Homebush for the recording of Dad and Dave. In case any of our interstate or overseas listeners are not familiar with the story of Dad and Dave, I'll tell you a little bit about it in a few moments. But basically, Dad and Dave was a radio serial. It was recorded between 1937 and 1953. According to a publication I was just reading in the library, the first episode went to air on May the 31st, 1937. I can let you hear a little bit of a few parts of it, such as the opening theme. Question for you. Do you know the name of that tune? Yes, Along the Road to Gundagai. Very well-known Australian tune. It was written by Jack O'Hagan and used by George Edwards in his radio serial Dad and Dave. If you ask any Australian adult what do they remember in their childhood on the radio, more than likely they'll say, oh, we used to always listen to Dad and Dave. That was a radio serial, a family-oriented saga of Australian farming characters originally created in Steele Rudd's book On Our Selection. In 1937, George Edwards, who was an actor and a producer, placed these fictional characters in a new radio serial he called Live on Nearby Farms, Big or Small, and they have to face up to various farming issues and relationship concerns as families grow up and issues develop. You've only got to listen to a few episodes of the series to get a good idea about the characters. The main characters are Dad. We don't know his first name or his surname. He's just referred to as Dad, but his name Dave. Not only does Dave refer to his mother as Mum, but so does most other people in the community. Why? I don't know. It's just become the way it's done in the story. The serial was produced by George Edwards. He was known back in the 1930s as the man with the stutter, the man of 1,000 voices. Yes, he did have a stutter, though it didn't show up in his acting, and he used to be able to all kinds of voices and very often took multiple parts in plays and serials. Initially, he cast himself in the role of Dad, John Saul as Dad's son Dave, Horace Bingham was Mum, Nell Sterling was Mabel. That's Mum's Uncle Clarence. Rodney Jacobs took over Uncle Clarence later on. Eric.
Sturdy, honest and resourceful in the great Australian outback. You'll laugh with them, you will sympathize with them, and perhaps their troubles may in some way remind you of your own, and perhaps their courage will inspire you. Now let us visit the homestead in Snake Gully, just off the road to Gundagai. It is a typical Australian homestead. There's a veranda running almost right round the house. In front of the house are a few trees and a small, well-kept garden. People laboriously writing, while Dave has just finished reading.
What are you doing, Dan?
I'm very busy. 2 and 5 is, why don't you do something useful instead of sitting with your nose in the paper all...
I'm mending Mum's clock, but for some reason the clock doesn't work and there are too many parts left over. Dad then has a go, but too late. Mum's just coming home from the meeting. She's going to catch them in the act.
Hurry up.
Oh, it was a wonderful social. Everyone in Snake Gully was there. And what?
I don't know how we're going to get it together again. There seems to be a lot of wheels over.
My clock. Oh, why, what have you done? You got it all in pieces.
Well, it was broken. You wanted it mended, didn't you?
I had Jim Norris, the jeweler, over here today, and he fixed it for me. Now you'll never get it together.
3 of the main characters, Dad, Mum and Dave. And of course, Dave is associated very much with his girlfriend, Mabel. And she was acted by Nell Sterling. Just as George acted many parts in the serial, so did Nell. She acted a lot of the country Aussie drawl she put on for Mabel's voice was quite well known. Apart from Dad and Dave, George and Nell had many great successes on 2UW.
There is no business like show business. And I think I should know, having been for over 40 years in show business, and for the last 18 of them in radio. Miss Sterling and I have been associated with Station 2UW for the past 12 years. And I can assure you that they've been 12 happy years. I would like to take this opportunity of wishing all you good people every happiness and the most prosperous new year, and to thank you for your support of all our programs over the years of our association. Now, I have with me someone whom you all know and has been with me in radio since my very first broadcast, Miss Nell Sterling.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to join my good wishes with those of Mr. Edwards in wishing you every happiness in the new year. My partnership with Mr. Edwards has certainly been a long one and a very happy one, and I trust that we will have the pleasure of entertaining all you good people for another 18 years and more. I must say you are really a marvelous audience, and it's a wonderful feeling to know that our work gives so much pleasure. It seems that quite a few of the characters from Dad and Dave seem to have made their way into this broadcast. And of course, every time we think of George Edwards in the studio, we think of, well, I'll let them speak for themselves.
Well, stone the crows. Fancy all of us blokes from Snake Gully being here in the studio. It's a beaut to know that we have all you cobbers all over Australia. Don't you think so, Mabel?
My word, it is, Dad. Dave and I'd like all our friends a very happy new year. You know, it's lovely to have this opportunity of saying hello to all our friends, isn't it, Mr. Ramsey?
Too right, Mabel, and I don't want to be left out of it. I want to say that I wish all you blokes all over Australia the very happiest new year, and that's the best you can wish anyone.
Indeed it is. Oh, hello, Elf.
Hello, Mabel. Do you think I could just wish all our friends a happy new year?
Of course.
You know, You're right when you say that's the best you can wish anyone. Annie always says that happiness is the richest possession anyone can have, and I reckon she's got something there.
That's very nice, Alf. Why, hello, Ham.
Good evening, Smibble. I have listened, and you are certainly right. Happiness and friendship are the most valuable possessions in the world.
If sincere wishes can bring you every happiness, you certainly have a big stock to carry on with.
Very, very, very happy New Year.
Good night, listeners.
Now the age is on the move with the most news.
The exclusive Lift Up TV radio guide is your free feature in The Age today.
Now the age is on the move. Read it every morning.
You're listening to 2CM, your hi-fi service, and the program Australian...
What are you doing with that gun? I'm going to shoot myself. Don't be a fool, man. But there's no reason for living. There's no enjoyment in life. There is, so there's a hi-fi... Oh, the hi-fi service. Never thought of that. I knew there was something I'd forgotten. Give me that gun at once. Give me the gun.
In Australian Radio Review, you have been listening to our feature on Dad and Dave, and that's been part of our look at 2UW, the old 2UW, that is. 2UW went on the 30th of April in 94. They switched over to the FM band and changed their call to 2WFM, 106.5 on your FM band. As we started off on 2UW way back there in the 1930s, let's come forward a little bit and have a look at something a little bit later. I wonder if you could work out what year this was. We're going to play for you a promotion disc that 2UW put out.
So I was only 24 hours from Tulsa. It's a little old lady from Pasadena. But I know I'll never find another you. Strangers in the night. I had the last waltz with you. Hey Jude, don't make it bad.
You're listening to a unique Australian radio format as 2UW.
The all-time great.
An all-time great is a record which 10 when released and covers all the big hits of the past 15 years. Blended with the all-time greats of yesterday are the records which will be all-time greats tomorrow.
Oh my darling, not 3 times on the ceiling if you want me. Sweet Lord, I beg your pardon. I never promised you a rose garden. Falling in love again.
Everyone between 15 and 50. And because of this, 2UW plays the all-time greats 24 hours a day.
Little children like you.
Botany Bay, all they've got to do is to jam a huge thermometer into the water and heat it.
If you've got pimples or blemishes on your face, just wish they'd go away. Clearasil really helps.
2UW time, 7:14.
Relieve that headache and that pain. Here's good advice and it's free. Take Vincent with confidence for quick 3-way relief. Good times, fun times, you'll always be right with Rhine Cold.
Sparkling white or new sparkling pink.
You'll always be right.
At a 7:15. 2UW. News headlines. It's Monday, March number 15, and Federal Parliament meets today with Mr. McGrath facing his first session. About 60 bus services will be operating in the Manly-Warringah area this morning, even though the men at Brookvale and Monavale depots are still on strike. Police have released the names of 2 people found shot dead north of Newcastle yesterday, and police have located an injured rock climber in the Grose Valley. Details of these plus other news stories on TUW at 7:30. Going to be sunny today and warm. Max should hit the high 80s, currently 71, that's 5 above, time 7:16 here. Look out for a cool southerly later on.
Papa worked, but his check was small. Mama sold just to help us all.
At 9, John Laws, Australia's top radio communicator, talks with the world's top entertainers.
Hello, I'm 23, 29, 43, 48.
Promises. That could only be Phyllis Diller.
What do you want?
You are in Australia, or didn't they tell you?
I am. I'm up to my waist in water.
Program.
Wife and his family. I pulled 4 cricketers out of a Holden sedan at Manilda Railway crossing one night. I tell you what, knocks your rottenness. The first thing that hit me was the fact that these men that are smashed in this car, they've got wives and family back home in Sydney, and I know that they're never going to see their dad again. It's bloody stupid.
And there's a lighter side too.
Well, you're a woman's man, you are.
Are you a woman? You could have fooled me. You have a voice problem if you are.
Yes, I'm a woman and you know it too.
Well, I don't really.
We know your dirty form.
I beg your pardon?
We know your dirty form.
You know nothing about my dirty form. A few women do, but that's about it.
And of course, John plays the old-time greats.
Love is a burning thing. And it burns. The ring of fire, the ring of fire, the ring of fire, the ring of fire.
At 12 each day, following the news, our current affairs director John Dingle talks to and about people. People from politicians to pensioners, from promoters to parents. When the recent drama was Canberra, John was the first in Sydney to have on air the former prominent Liberal backbencher, Mr. Edward St John.
Yes, I think it's been mounting over a period. I think more and more people have become aware of his characteristics, and more and more people have lost faith, and now, suddenly, we've come to this revelation. I think people...
And that probably there would be a certain amount of sympathy for Mr. Fraser, certainly in the affairs that have led him to resign as he did yesterday.
Yeah. John also gives hard-hitting commentaries and plays the old-time greats.
Jeff Haynes, TUW, plays the all-time greats.
TUW2 in a row. From Diana Ross, Supreme's Temptations, A Cast of Thousands, The Rhythm of Life, and I Couldn't Live Without Your Love. For Julie Clark, it's 10.5 minutes after 3 o'clock. Warm at first, but fresh to strong southerly winds developing tonight, bringing a few showers, wouldn't it? Cool to mild tonight, moderate seas and a strong wind warning current for coastal waters. It's 83 degrees in town at the moment, and that's 10 above normal.
Oh, Mrs. Starkle.
Yes, Mr. Sheen.
Mr. Geo-Clean, wax and polishes you dust with Mr. Sheen.
It's the night of the big ball.
Oh, it's so clean and so easy.
If your oven's dirty, try the magic of Pressure Pack brand oven cleaner and watch the grease and baked-on dirt melt away.
Flemings are really fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. Flemings are really fabulous. Just look at this week's saving.
100 Kleenex tissues and Dawn towels, 25 cents. Soft, gentle Kleenex tissues and thick, absorbent Dawn paper towels, just 25 cents this week at all Fleming's fabulous food stores. And don't forget thousands of everyday discount prices for everyday savings. Compare, and you will be totally convinced. Jeff Haynes with you, TUW, 12 after 3. Such as needles and pins.
Saw her today, I saw her face, was a face I loved.
Drive Time with Jeff Haynes is followed at 6 by Phil Hunter, Graham Cherry at 9, and John Crawford or Jeff Hall through to dawn. Every weekend we have music specials. At the moment, Super Years, Super Hits. These are hits of a particular year, played throughout the weekend. TUW does nothing but play music all weekend.
My love is warmer than the warmest sunshine, softer than a sigh. And there is nothing in this world that can ever change my love.
People want to be informed as well as entertained. And at breakfast and drive time, they're never more than 15 minutes from top local and world news. At all other times, we have news on the hour, with 3 major bulletins at 7:30 a.m., noon and 6 p.m. News flashes, important sporting score reports are broadcast throughout the day and night. Our newsroom is manned around the clock.
Midday 2UW News. Allegations by the Transport Minister, Mr. Morris, that car manufacturers are using safety features as an excuse to pass on increased costs to purchasers are expected to be discussed at the next meeting of the Australian Transport Advisory Council. Laurie Power has the details.
The council is made up of the transport...
3 times a day
on 2UW, Opinion with John Tingle.
Poor old Kirribilli. One of these days, it'll just sink quietly into the harbour under the weight of its own top-heavy development. Kirribilli is a mess. But as long as building and development in air continue to fester in some of Sydney's most superb spots, this is no justification for more mess, more crowding, rather the opposite. Common sense says the Kirribilli Ridge has had enough. The law says technically it can take more. So once again, the so-called developers will have their way, move in, do their will, make their money, and move on. Look out, your street could be next. This is John Tingle.
2UW is creating more interest than any other station in Sydney. And our program format has been planned to provide the audience valuable to all advertisers. And isn't that what you want?
Well, I wonder if you can work out what year that promotion came out. You could probably judge it from the voices. Obviously, it's got to be before 1994, because that's when 2UW became 2WFM. But if you'd like to have a guess, why not email the rare one at 2CM and give him your opinion on that. All right, well, we've got one more little item from 2UW to present. This is again another promo, but this one is from off air.
Every second, a crisis is born. Every second, the 2UW News Centre is ready. Ready to bring you factual news the moment it happens. Top-line journalists working 24 hours a day in 2UW's own news centre ensures the news you hear on 2UW is true and fully documented. Yeah, factual news as it happens here on 2UW.
So with that promo on the 2UW News, we conclude this feature on 2UW in Sydney.
2UW!
Earlier in this edition of Australian Radio Review, we were talking about how George Edwards and Nell Sterling were working at 2UE in Sydney when they were enticed to go to 2GB and establish the drama and had even greater success for quite a lot of years. So to conclude this program, seeing we've only got a couple of minutes left, we will have a jingle from 2UE where it all started for George Edwards. And we will listen to Rhythm of the City. Yes, we've already heard the Rhythm of the City in an earlier edition of this program when we were doing the feature on 3DB. But we're going to conclude this program now with the Rhythm of the City, 2UE.
Rhythm, rhythm, can't you feel it? Rhythm, rhythm, put it to me. Rhythm, rhythm, can't you feel it? Rhythm, rhythm, rhythm of the city, rhythm of 2UW Sydney, rhythm of the city, rhythm of 2UW Sydney, can't you feel the rhythm of the city? 2UW. Gotta get the rhythm, make it feel good. Gotta get the rhythm, Sydney rhythm will make you feel good. Can't you feel it? Gotta get the rhythm, gotta get the rhythm, gotta get the rhythm, gotta get the rhythm, gotta get the rhythm. Get it, get it, get it. Stop your feet to the rhythm, make a love to the rhythm, make it feel good. Do it to the rhythm. Everything that you rhythm is good. Rhythm, can't you feel the rhythm? Rhythm of the city. Rhythm of every city. Rhythm of the city. Rhythm of every city. Can't you feel it? Rhythm of the city. Rhythm of every city. Can't you feel the rhythm of the city? To you, rhythm of the city. Rhythm of every city. Can't you feel it? Rhythm of every city. Rhythm of the city. Rhythm of every city. Can't you feel the rhythm of the city? To you.
All right, that's all the time we have. So I think we'll say cheerio till next time. On to CM, your hi-fi service.
Whether you're at work, things you near and far.
These are the regulations for the guilt offering, which is most holy. The guilt offering is to be slaughtered in the place where the burnt offering is slaughtered, and its blood is to be splashed against the sides of the altar. All its fat shall be offered, the fat tail, and the fat that covers the internal organs, both kidneys, with the fat on them near the loins, and the long lobe of the liver, which is to be removed with the kidneys. The priest shall burn them on the altar as a food offering presented to the Lord. It is a guilt offering. Any male in a priest's family may eat it, but it must be eaten in the sanctuary area. It is most holy. The same law applies to both the sin offering and the guilt offering. They belong to the priest who makes atonement with them. The priest who offers a burnt offering for anyone may keep its hide for himself. Every grain offering baked in an oven or cooked in a pan or on a griddle belongs to the priest who offers it. And every grain offering, whether mixed with oil or dry, belongs equally to all the sons of Aaron. These are the regulations for the fellowship offering anyone may present to the Lord. If they offer it as an expression of thankfulness, then along with this thank offering, they are to offer thick loaves made without yeast and with olive oil mixed in. Thin loaves made without yeast and brushed with olive oil, and thick loaves of the finest flour, well kneaded and with olive oil mixed in. Along with their fellowship offering of thanksgiving, they are to present an offering with thick loaves of bread made with yeast. They are to bring one of each kind as an offering, the contribution to the Lord. It belongs to the priest who splashes the blood of the fellowship offering against the altar. The meat of their fellowship offering of thanksgiving must be eaten on the day it is offered. They must leave none of it till morning. If, however, their offering is the result of a vow or is a free will offering, the sacrifice shall be eaten on the day they offer it, but anything left over may be eaten on the next day. Any meat of the sacrifice left over till the third day must be burned up. If any meat of the fellowship offering is eaten on the third day, it has become impure. The person who eats any of it will be held responsible. Meat that touches anything ceremonially unclean must not be eaten. It may eat it. But if anyone who is unclean eats any meat of the fellowship offering belonging to the Lord, they must be cut off from their people. Anyone who touches something unclean, whether human uncleanness or an unclean animal or any unclean creature that moves along the ground, and then eats any of the meat of the fellowship offering belonging to the Lord, must be cut off from their people.
The Lord said to Moses,
"Say to the Israelites, do not eat any of the fat of cattle, sheep, or goats. The fat of an animal found dead or torn by wild animals may be used for any other purpose, but you must not eat it. Anyone who eats the fat of an animal from which a food offering may be presented to the Lord must off from their people. And wherever you live, you must not eat the blood of any bird or animal. Anyone who eats blood must be cut off from their people.
The Lord said to Moses,
Say to the Israelites, anyone who brings a fellowship offering to the Lord is to bring part of it as their sacrifice to the Lord. With their own hands they are to present the food offering to the Lord. They are to bring the fat together with the breast and wave the breast before the Lord as a wave offering. The priest shall burn the fat on the altar, but the breast belongs to Aaron and his sons. You are to give the right thigh of your fellowship offerings to the priest as a contribution. The son of Aaron who offers the blood and the fat of the fellowship offering shall have the right thigh as his share. From the fellowship offerings of the Israelites, I have taken the breast that is waved and the thigh that is presented a perpetual share from the Israelites.
on the day they were presented to serve the Lord as priests. On the day they were anointed, the Lord commanded that the Israelites give this to them as their perpetual share for the generations to come. These then are the regulations for offering and the fellowship offering, which the Lord gave Moses on Mount Sinai in the desert of Sinai, on the day he commanded the Israelites to bring their offerings to the Lord.
Hurry, hurry, hurry! Now showing on the inside of the big marquee, the George Wallace Show.
Oh, we laugh and we dance and we sing our romance when the Wallace Show's in town. When we do our drama, the people approve. That is the reason the big top is true. And they all start to laugh when the hero is killed. When the Wallace Show's in town.
Good enough time on the traveling show tonight. We're greeting an audience in the